Hi everyone, welcome back. Last time we talked about Ikigai. Didn't really come to any major conclusions, but it's not the purpose of this either. It's just to get some clarity on whatever it is we want to get some more clarity on. Let's see. So, I'm not sure what we're going to end up talking about today. I didn't decide ahead of time, and I'm not planning on deciding for most things ahead of time like this. I'm just here for the ride. So that's a fair thing to say. I don't really know. Last Monday, that would be 2 days ago, at the time of recording, I had a really shit day. You see, I, in January, signed up for the High Ticket Closer Certification Program taught by Dan Lok. Some of you may know about it, some of you may be part of it, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. What it teaches is the skills to close high ticket deals, and this skill set is supposed to help you find a career in life that isn't reliant on a college education, since it's a soft skill essentially. And what you then do is you take after 7 weeks of the program, you take the skill and you go out and you find some sort of business. They focus on influencers, but it can be just any kind of business, honestly. Any kind of business with an offer over $2,000, you contact and get. You then make a deal with this business that you're gonna to close for them at a commission rate. So you're paid by commission only and no salary, meaning you reduce the risk for the business, but of course increase the risk for yourself as well. And the standard's around 10%. So for a $2,000 program, that's $200 for every time you close someone. And you'll be doing multiple calls a day. And then depending on the business, a non unreasonable closing rate would probably be like 20%. So there's a lot of money, potential money in this, especially if you start doing B2B where there's like $10,000 products, or you can go higher even. You start earning like $1,000 per sale. It's a lot of. I live off at $1,000 a month right now, so yeah, a lot of potential money in this. And so that's why I signed up, because I am not happy with the structure of college, and I wanted something different. I didn't know where I wanted to go after I dropped out of college, so I took this opportunity to let this lead me into the future, and if it didn't work, I'd still go to college some other time. Going into the program, I was skeptical, but going out of the program, I'm utterly convinced. I mean, I know this works. I know people who it worked for. I talked to people who are earning money from this, and I graduated in March, and it's now May, and I'm kicking myself that I'm still looking for influencers, looking for a business to close for. I worked so hard in May and March after I graduated, and I just don't have anything to show for it yet, and it hurts so much. So last Monday, I didn't so much doubt my decision because I'm still convinced. I still know that this works. I'm not doubtful of it. I'm just worried about how long it's going to take. And I have a deadline. because my parents aren't convinced that this is gonna work either. So at some point, I'll have to, like, when I made the deal with them that I'd borrow, because I had to borrow the money to sign up for the program from them. They expect some kind of results at some point. So at some point, I'm just gonna have to go to university, even though I don't want to, because that's part of the deal. But that's not really what I was sad about. What I was kicking myself over was that I wasn't doing enough, because I'd worked so hard for March, and I worked so hard in May, but I still didn't have anything to show for it. And that was fine, because I know sometimes things takes time. But then I said May. Oh, well, I've been productive in April. Here in May, in this month so far, I've been incredibly unproductive. We have homework to do. Well, things to do, and I haven't done them. Things I should do every day that I didn't do for a very long time. And I'm slowly trying to get into it again, but I'm so bad at it. I set a goal for last week to do 7 hours of role playing, but I didn't get to do that. Well, I started out good and I got 5, but I didn't get the 7th. And so here I am, just kicking myself, and on Monday that I somehow am so utterly incapable of just doing an hour a day of. I didn't even have to roleplay. I just had to go into the Discord group and listen, and I couldn't even do that for an average of an hour a day. And so yeah, I was kicking myself. Like, I was depressed. And I spent a lot of time thinking. I took the time to sit down, and thank God for my girlfriend. She's helping me back up. And that's why I'm doing this now. Recording videos for YouTube. I've been wanting to do this for a month at least, but I hadn't. And my girlfriend, she's been trying to kick me back into gear, but been stubborn. Like, I haven't done it. I don't know how. I've failed so hard, but I have. And I failed to do the role playing. And so on Monday, I was just so sad that I have had so many months to do this now. I've had 2 months since graduation, and I still have nothing to show for it. And I know it's entirely my fault. So she helped me. We have a plan now to fix it. That's why I'm here. But on Monday, I was so unsure of myself. I thought I needed to think a lot on Monday, but I'm not sure what it is I wanted to think about anymore. Okay, you know what? Let's swap over to another topic. I watched a video from Dan Lok. talking with, including Dan Pena, talking about work-life balance. In it, they essentially said, get new friends, dump your old ones. If you want to be successful, you have to give up everything. And so what they're essentially saying is there's no work-life balance, there's only work. And then they kind of like try to make that a good thing by saying, well, if you're successful, if you're us, if you're Bill Gates, if you're Musk, if you're Bezos, you enjoy what you do, and so work isn't really work. And that's, I get where they're coming from, because the more you sacrifice, the more you're willing to sacrifice, the more the more you can get. But at the same time, in the same video, Dan Pena talks about attending one of his friends' weddings. And Locke, we know, has gone to watch Avengers Endgame, as everyone has, I hope. It's because it's a major cultural phenomenon, not something you want to miss. So no, they don't work. And then they say, well, if you're thinking about it, you're working. Well, that's fine, but I doubt Dan Locke is sitting watching Endgame and thinking, oh, I wonder how I can increase my revenue in this next month, or how I can help my students more. He might get inspiration from the thing, but everyone gets inspiration from different things. He's not actively thinking when he's watching a movie. It's not active work. And so when they see you work all the time, does it just mean passive work? Because then it's not, I mean, fair enough. Good point. But it's not the same as working 24/7. Only stopping to sleep and eat. And then you have another successful person, Sam Ovens, who says he takes every Sunday off to be with his girlfriend because that's the deal they made. He needs to take care of that relationship with her and spend time with her. And then they spend the Sunday doing whatever she wants to do, and that's fair enough. And also, he also suggests that you make sure to take at least like one day off a week, because your mind needs time to rest if it wants to work optimally. So there's kind of these two different sides to the story, and I went to the comments on the Dan Locke video to try and see what people were saying, and a lot of people were disagreeing, like coming up with the points that I mentioned, because that's where I got them from, with the end game. And then people were defending them. Well, okay, Dan Locke and Dan Pena, they already paid the price. Now they get to enjoy it. And that's a fair argument. I think that's okay, fair enough. But it goes against, in my mind, the purpose of entrepreneurship. Because to me, a lot of like modern entrepreneurs, people who want to become entrepreneurs now, do it because they're not happy with the typical work structure. Which is, let's try and reiterate that. Let's say you start work at 20, you work for 40, 50 years until you're 60, 70, 80 years old. And then you retire. And throughout your many years of work, let's just get rid of this guy. Throughout your many years of work, you just save up enough You just have to save up enough money for your retirement so that for the last 20, 30, however many years, you're going to live happily and do whatever you want. Being limited by budget, I suppose, but oh shit. And the reason I'm not happy with it, and I think this resonates with a lot of other people, is that why should I have to spend my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, my 50s, and my 60s working in a job I don't necessarily like, to then spend my old age enjoying the last few years of my life in an age where, if I'm lucky, I can travel the world. If I'm unlucky, I'm stuck in a wheelchair. Why should we take that gamble? And why should we waste away the time of our life that has our prime youth in it? Why is that the right choice? And I think a lot of people are saying, well, no, it's not. The answer is it's not the right choice. That's the wrong system. Fucking hell. So, if that's the wrong system, why is it then right to work your ass off for 5, 10, 20 years as entrepreneurs, leaving your friends and girlfriends, not going to the movies, not going to weddings, giving up everything to then spend the rest of your life living like a millionaire and then getting to enjoy it? Like, why is that? It's the exact same principle, isn't it? There's maybe the time frame is shorter. Sure. Maybe there's more money involved. Sure. But it's the same equation. And it's that structure I'm against, not the equations involved. But, maybe the structure's right. Maybe you just have to, maybe that's the best way of doing it. Because it's certainly common. It's prevalent. That's something to support the structure, right? Is what most people do. And so who am I to tell everyone that they're doing it wrong? And I think it boils down to it's a couple different things. Like the whole work-life balance debate, I think can be summed up, I think it can be simplified some to be, well, either you have one side, which is the Western culture, where pension and retirement is the end goal. Retirement of some sort. Neither you work in a 9-to-5 job, or you work your ass off as an entrepreneur and retire early. But there's a counter argument to be made, and this relates back to my video from yesterday, or my last video on Ikigai. In all the books on Ikigai I've read, they talk about how Japanese people don't really ever retire. They don't sit back and then stop. They just keep working for the rest of their lives. Maybe they don't work in their office jobs, but then they start something else. Then they have their gardens to tend, and then they don't actually ever really retire. And I even believe the books mention that Japanese language doesn't really have a word for retirement either. So there's the counter argument, and the way I understand is Ikigai is, well, enjoy the work that you do. Find enjoyment in everything you do as much as possible. And you'll be happy. And so maybe the answer isn't to work your ass off until you can stop and then enjoy life. Maybe the answer is find a work that you're happy with and then do that for the rest of your life. And it kind of boils, I mean, it that relates a bit to what Pena said when he says, well, it's not work when we do it because we like it. It's like we enjoy doing it. And sure, cool. But just because you enjoy work doesn't mean you should do it all the time. At least not in my mind, because I enjoy eating cake. That doesn't mean it's healthy for me to eat cake 24/7 as every meal. I don't think anyone's going to argue with me on that. So saying you should do anything 24/7 is wrong. In my mind. In my mind, there's not one thing you could be doing all the time and sacrifice everything else and then you'll be happy, because while you might enjoy work, there's pleasures to be had elsewhere. And even if we make the assumption that what brings you the very most joy in your life is work, it's just working. If you're, I don't know if I'm gonna get the time age right, but let's say 1940s, 1920s typewriter. You sit every day at a typewriter and you just write what you're told to write. Say this brings you immense pleasure, more than sex, more than being with your family, more than having a child, more than anything, more than eating. Like, if that is what brought you the most pleasure, let's make that assumption, right? You could do that 24/7, and purely biologically, you'd have to stop to sleep and eat. So even then, you can't do it 24/7. But then what are the consequences, and why is it wrong to then do that? Like, what, give up your family connections just to do that? Should you give up your future? Let's also make the assumption that you're not going to lose the job. You secured this job and it pays what you need it to pay, right? Should you then not go to the movies? Should you not have friends? Should you not have a boyfriend? Should you not make a family? Should you just not talk to your family? Because, well, this makes you happy, right? More than being with your family would. So you sacrifice all your family time to then instead typewrite. Is that the right choice? That's a hard question to answer. Some of you might. It's hard for me to answer because I'm trying to actually come up with a proper argument as to why it's wrong. Of course, this is a somewhat unrealistic scenario we set up, but we're bringing the concepts to the extremes and seeing if they hold up. And the only thing I can come up with against it, because, I mean, you're happy, your family might not be happy, they lose you. I might be able to come up with an argument against this. Essentially, on the surface, it seems like the right thing to do. On the surface, it seems right. You're happy. Good. Your family should be happy that you're happy, right? Is that not all we can ask? Happiness in life, in this world filled with pain. Living for happiness, is that not just all we can do? And, well, the first thing I could say was, this is very akin to drug addiction. Someone with a serious drug addiction might ruin their family relations, might ruin their jobs, might lose their jobs, lose their family, lose their friends, and all they're left with is drugs. But drugs made them the happiest. When they're on a high, they're happy. And so if they could just have an endless supply of drugs is their thought process, then they'll be happy. And that's why they just keep chasing it, right? But I don't think anyone's going to argue with me that drug addiction is wrong. And then we need to figure out why that is. Because I don't think it's obvious then. If that person is happy, then what's wrong? Okay, well, drugs are going to bring them to an early grave. Well, isn't that their decision to make, maybe? And if they live, let's say they live for another 5 years instead of for another 20 or 60, right? If they live 5 years being as happy as they can be, why is that wrong? The only thing I can come up with is because it goes against what I believe is the purpose of life. But that's also easy for me to say because I don't think there'd ever be a scenario like that where I'd be entirely happy. If I do something that I enjoy, I'll keep doing it. But at some time, I'm gonna grow tired of it. And I'll want to do something else. Like, you could very well have probably called me addicted to video games at one point in my life. But that didn't stop me. Well, it didn't make me happy. It didn't truly make me happy. I'd play Dota 2 for 8 hours a day. One summer, I'd spent like a week barely leaving my room, just binge watching Lost. And it's temporary happiness. It's happiness in the moment, but not long term. But in this fictional scenario we set up, it should also just bring them long term happiness, or should it? Well, yeah. They have a quality of life they want. They're doing what they like. Is that not enough? And I don't want to come with the argument that, okay, well, this scenario is just so unrealistic that it just doesn't happen. Because I feel like it does happen with drug addiction. And even then, if we can't, like, what people chase all their lives are unrealistic dreams. If you look at people are trying to go in their lives, it's oftentimes something unrealistic. And it's not so much that I don't think it's wrong to chase something unrealistic, because what we do when we chase something unrealistic is that we chase the ideal. And we might never ever get there. But we should at the very least try if that's the right way to go. And so that's why I don't think that's a good response, is that, well, it's an unrealistic scenario. Because, well, people chase heaven. People strive to be as merciful as Jesus. And, well, I don't think anyone's going to say it's a bad thing to be merciful. Maybe sometimes it's not the best thing, but the very least, it's not a bad trait to have. And no one's ever going to become, again, I'm not religious, but no one's ever going to become Jesus. But chasing the ideal is the best thing we can do, even though we'll never get there. That's what we do when we're parents. Like, we know our child won't be perfect. at least I certainly hope the parents watching this do, because your child isn't going to be perfect. No child is perfect. No kid is perfect. They all have flaws, and so do we. But we raise them to be as perfect as they can be. And that's, I think, the essence of life is that we just have to go on and chase an ideal that we believe to be right. Where the hell was I? I feel like I got sidetracked. Oh, kitty, get out of there. Come on, get up. I was trying to... Yeah, alright, I remember. Okay, so yeah, the essence of life, in my opinion at least, is to chase whatever ideal we deem to be right. And so, even no matter how unrealistic it might be to actually reach that, we chase it because that's the end goal, even if we'll never get there. And so, if we deem the ideal to be seek happiness in the moment, at all costs, essentially, if that's the ideal we choose, then saying it's unrealistic isn't a counter argument to why it's the wrong thing, right? You can't just tell me, well, it's an unrealistic, the typewriter scenario. It's unrealistic, so it's not an argument. Like, it's not something to be. Oh, fucking hell. You can't use that as an argument because it's unrealistic. Well, no, because this is the ideal. And if we decide that this ideal is the right ideal, then that's what we're going to chase. And that's our north. That's our true north for our compass, right? So yeah, it's actually annoyingly hard to figure out why it's wrong. Why is it wrong to chase happiness in the moment? Because I think we can all agree that the drug addiction scenario is wrong. We shouldn't let drug addicts live like that. But then the answer is why. And this is an incredibly hard answer. Or question, rather. If I had to give my personal reason, at least my current hypothesis, it'd be this. We live life chasing an ideal. And the ideal is then the true north. And if you look at it like a graph, it's up. And time is then sideways. As we move through time, what we want to do is we want to make our curve, our progression, our line, go upwards. And then maybe sometimes we go down. Maybe we go in the wrong direction every once in a while. But what we need to do in life is we need to choose a direction. We need to choose a true north, and then we need to live after that and chase it as best we can. And then say, and it's not entirely obvious why I think this is, but I'm not sure I kind of have to get into it, don't I, to explain this. I think life is about growth. And I think so. Because otherwise, there isn't any purpose. A counter argument to be had, and this is very relevant to this, is that life is about happiness. You have to chase happiness and be as happy as can be. Because it's what brings joy. And if you're happy, people around you might be happy. And that's a good sentiment. It's certainly a very nice, I think it's a good answer even. I mean, hell. But at the same time, we're not alone on this planet, and we're not alone here. So does each individual just chase their own happiness? And then leave the rest to find their own? Do we abandon our brothers and sisters to find happiness, and then our brothers and sisters will find happiness on their own? I mean, that might be an answer. It certainly could be. But I don't think that's the answer. Because if life is just about having happiness in the moment, then there's no particular reason to be here. What I mean is, if I killed myself tomorrow, being an atheist or agnostic at the very least, there's nothing after life, there's only oblivion. And oblivion isn't evil, it's not good. I won't suffer and I won't be happy. And so isn't that the ideal happiness? No, I guess that's not. Because happiness and avoidance of pain isn't the same thing. So if the purpose of life is happiness, then chasing and suicide isn't the answer still. No, fuck it. Maybe it's the answer. Let's assume the chase of happiness is the answer. Then we end up bringing pain to other people. Because then we can realistically come up with a scenario where we say, okay, well, what makes this person happy is to hurt other people. And then should we let that person hurt other people? Well, it makes them happy, and if that's the purpose of life. But at the same time, it then makes other people unhappy. And then is that fair? No, but okay, so what are they going to do against it? I mean, his happiness is to be with his family, but the sadist is taking him away from his family because that makes him happy. So maybe we match up people. Maybe we have to find, okay, well, there's a sadist here, and then there's a not sure how to pronounce it, but a person who enjoys pain over here. And so the sadist is happy, and the person enjoying pain is also happy. But then what if we have a sadist that's smarter than that? What if I have a sadist who knows, oh, well, this person enjoys it, then I'm not gonna do it? Because that, again, is what makes them happy. Maybe their happiness isn't inflicting like surface level pain, it's actually making people miserable. And maybe they're genuinely evil. As much as I hate to say that. In this scenario, we'll assume that. Well, then for them to be happy, someone else has to be unhappy. And then there's some other person who spreads that worse by their happiness comes from killing people. Or maybe the sadist, well, what brings him the most happiness is like the more people he makes unhappy. So he'll tear a family apart and the entire family will be unhappy. And now it's an uneven equation. Now there's more unhappiness in the world because of one person is more happy. And so if the purpose of life is happiness, well, then it can't be uniform. There'll never be a utopia. Because everyone can never be truly the most happy. Because there's conflict of interests. Okay, I feel like we made progress there. So let's use that as an argument as to why I can't come up with any counter argument for that right now. Maybe I'll come up with something later. But for now, we'll say happiness isn't the answer. Happiness isn't the purpose of life. Because there's conflict of interest, and so everyone can never truly be happy. So there has to be another answer. And then maybe that's where my answer comes in. I say it's about growth. There is a hell of a lot of pain in this world. And I think it's the most fundamental truth of life is that it's going to be filled with pain no matter what you do. Everyone suffers no matter what. And the best thing you can do when you experience pain is to learn from it. That's at least this philosophy I've learned from thinking this out. This is my end point, by the way, when I tried to discuss this with myself. I came up with this as an end point. It wasn't my starting point. With so much suffering in the world, the best thing we can do is learn from it. Because otherwise the suffering is pointless. And then it is truly evil. But what if we turn it into, let's not say a good thing, because it's still suffering. But what if we make the best out of it? And we grow from it. We learn from it. Say you lost your job. You figure out why. And you take the opportunity to find a new job and change your life. Maybe for the better. Hopefully for the better. That's certainly a good sentiment. I feel like it's an okay answer, but it's not immediate. That's an argument to be had, at the very least. I also think I have this super weird analogy of life, and if you see yourself at like a baseball court, and there's a machine shooting balls at you, baseball balls obviously, and you're the batter, this machine is going to endlessly shoot balls at you, and either you swing your bat and you hit the ball back, and that's work, it takes effort, or you take it and you get hit and it hurts and you'll get a bruise. And maybe you swing and you miss and you still get hurt. And in this analogy, work is swinging the bat. When you work, you avoid pain. Say you work your 9 to 5, you put some effort in to avoid some other pain, taking the ball, losing your job. And if you stop working entirely, you're just going to keep getting hit by this ball. And so if you stop putting in effort, if you stop doing anything in your life and you stay in bed all day, every day, you're going to lose your life, you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your friends. Eventually you're going to die. But let's just say you keep your bare necessities intact. You sleep and you eat and you go to the toilet, right? Somehow you get the funds for that. You're going to keep losing things. And at the end of the analogy, you're just going to be lying on the ground, bruised all over, and you're still going to get hit by these balls. These baseballs are just going to keep coming at you until you start hitting them back. And then as a kid, you have your parents. And your parents are on the baseball court with you, and well, they're hitting the balls for you every once in a while. You're not very good. You're not a good batter yet. And so if you were left alone, if your parents weren't there, well, you'd be hit by basically every single ball because you don't have the strength to lift a bat, or you just don't know how to swing it yet. You haven't figured out that you have to swing the bat. And so your parents are there to swing it with you, and they help you, and they teach you how to swing the bat, and they teach you how to avoid getting hit by the ball. And then every once in a while, they're gonna leave you to swing the ball yourself, because otherwise you're never gonna swing the bat yourself, hit the ball yourself, and maybe you fail and the ball hits you, and then they're gonna be there to comfort you and then take care of the other balls so that you only take that one ball. You don't continue to get hit. But then there's this one more interesting thing you can do with this baseball machine. You can turn it up. You can make it shoot faster. And then what the hell? Why would you want to do that? Why do you want this baseball machine to shoot faster? That means you have to hit the balls faster. You have to get ready faster. And if you miss, you'll get hit more. That doesn't seem like a good thing. But that's what entrepreneurs then do. They turn up the machine. And they tell the world, bring it on. They face it head on. And then they say, give me all you have right now, so that I will be a master batter. And they stand there and they shoot so many balls back that they're so good at it. And it doesn't take any effort for them anymore to shoot just like easy balls. Because the machine also shoots harder or slower or faster. So maybe one day it one shot it shoots super hard, so hard that as an 18-year-old your parents taught you how to deal with this, but not enough that you can properly handle it. You couldn't hit it back, and that's maybe equivalent to a death in the family, right? Problems, these balls are like the problems in your life and the pains in your life. And some of them are harder to solve than others. Maybe it's a curveball. So entrepreneurs just turn this machine up so hard that every ball would break a bone. Okay, maybe an exaggeration. But the balls are harder and they come faster. And the entrepreneurs and other people, it's not just entrepreneurs who do this, they take this experience and they take the world head on and they learn from it so much that they can. so that when they decide to turn down the machine to standard levels again, it's not hard for them anymore. They secure it themselves. They know how to hit back the balls now. So when a curveball comes their way, they don't have to struggle with it anymore. And so the rest of their life becomes easier. And then they can teach their children what they learned from this experience. And so their children's lives become easier. And this is roughly equivalent to money. If you earn a lot of money, the rest of your life becomes easier, and your children's lives become easier, etc. There are still curveballs you maybe didn't learn to deal with. But you're a lot more prepared than you were before. So that's this analogy, this weird ass analogy I use for myself, for life, to try and explain it. And usually what I end up agreeing on is that life is painful, life sucks. Life sucks a ton. But the best thing we can do is learn from it. Learn from the pain. Learn from the good and learn from the bad. And then teach it to our children so that they don't have to go through the same things we did. Just continue becoming better versions of ourselves. Finding a true north. And then chasing that. And while we'll never reach it, someone might pick up the torch after us and then get closer still. And that's the best answer I have right now, is for the purpose of life, is to learn so much as you can, and then give the torch to someone else so that they can do what you didn't. And that explains so much, so many obsessions, cultural obsessions with legacy and many other things. And I think it's a good worldview, and I've thought long and hard about it, and right now I'm kind of cluster minded, so I can't come up with any of the counter arguments I've ever come up with, but I believe I found answers to them. And well, if you can defend the idea of happiness as the purpose of life, then I want to know, because as I said, I believe the purpose of life is learning, and that's why I want to hear you guys, because the odd thing about having the growth as the purpose of life is that it replaces itself if something better shows up. There's a better alternative than buy with the growth of life and follow the other alternative instead. So if you guys have a defense for happiness, share it. If you have a criticism for growth, share it. I want to figure this out as hard as I can, and I'll probably never truly figure it out. And maybe there's not a perfect answer, but chase the ideal. Get as far as we can. So leave your comments, leave your thoughts. Subscribe if you want to keep getting more. And dislike if you didn't like it. Maybe you just don't like my opinion, or maybe the structure's wrong. Maybe I should stop playing Minecraft while doing this. I don't know. You tell me. But I hope I made you think, because that's what I really want to do here. I want to help people to think. And I hope we can figure this out together. So, thank you and goodbye.